story takes place in high school in the 1960s. Math was never my strong subject. But with hard work and support and help from my teachers, I managed to get by. And one of my better years was in geometry with Mr. Williams. I'll never forget that first day of school. We didn't even do any math in his class, he said. Instead, he talked to us about self-confidence. He told us that all of us could do well that year if we just believed in ourselves, that self-confidence was the key to learning. And he always supported us and gave us encouragement throughout the year. It was such a wonderful talk, and it left a big impression on me. I thought about it many times in my life. And I think that it could have been a really great TED Talk if we had had TED Talks then. But the next year, in 11th grade, that was a different story. I was taking Algebra 2 with Mr. Thompson, and he terrified me. He would look through his glasses with his beady eyes and penetrating stare, waiting for me to give the correct answer. His gaze was even more severe because he had this crew cut and thinning hair in the back. And his smile, it wasn't a smile, it was more like a smirk. It seemed like his mouth went straight across. It didn't go up, it didn't go down, except there was like this little part at the end. Mr. Thompson had favorites. Naturally, he loved when kids were great in math, but mostly he loved the guys who were athletes, especially if they were varsity players. He would even spend class time talking to them about the games. Hey, that was a great shot last night in the game. And the girls, he just seemed to ignore us. The only one that seemed to get by at all with him was Nancy, and she was a cheerleader. So, as you can see, I fit neither of those categories. I just felt like I was sitting in the bleachers. He had us do lots of board work. In those days, we used chalkboards. You know, you'd go in the classroom and you'd sort of like inhale the chalk dust. Just have that chalky smell. And we'd go up to the chalkboard and actually we called it blackboard. And he would alternate us, boy, girl. And then some of us were still sitting at our desks, and then he'd have alternating problems because he didn't want us to be copying the next person's work next to us. So, but he'd encourage the guys. If they were having trouble, he'd say, oh, try subtracting there. Don't forget to distribute first. Then he would go to one of the girls and he'd say, looks like she's just reached her limit with algebra. But that doesn't matter. She won't have to use it later in her life. And sometimes he would go step by step through a girl's problem. He'd say, look at this mess that Kathy's made. I just want you to see so you all don't make that same mistake. And he loved pop quizzes. He would make them short, just 4 or 5 questions so that they wouldn't take up too much class time. He said, class, pop quizzes are good for you. That way you will remember all of your algebraic principles. It will keep you on your toes. And I think he thought he was giving us a vitamin pill or something when we take a pop quiz. Well, I was very quiet in his classroom. And for those of you who know me here, you may not believe that. But I was quiet. I didn't say anything. I just hoped like if I didn't say anything, he just wouldn't notice me. It wasn't like my other classes. My hand was always up. I was always participating, wanting to answer questions, but not there. I did not want to be receiving the brunt of his ridicule if I was wrong. One day, he said, "All right, class, time for a pop quiz." I wasn't saying anything. But I had a feeling that something was going to happen that was not going to be good. And I was right. He said, "I think we're going to have a quiz on the law of negative exponents." And my hands began to sweat. I was feeling like jelly. The law of negative exponents, the law of negative exponents, we covered that weeks ago. He started writing on the board. Yes, let's see, the law of negative exponents. This should be really easy for you. All you need to do is remember the law, and you'll ace this. You know, this quiz could really help your average this quarter. There he was, talking about grades again. He was always talking about our grades. Grades for the quarter, grades for the half term. Yes, it'll be easy for you. Just remember that law. Put it into action. You'll be a real winner. What a gift I'm giving to you today. What a giveaway. The law of negative exponents, the law of negative exponents. If he would just stop talking, maybe I could think. I needed quiet to think. I couldn't take this pressure. This was algebra. But he wouldn't stop talking. He was even saying the problems out loud as he was writing them. He finished 4 problems. Great. If I got 1 wrong, it would be an automatic C. 2 wrong would be disaster. Then all of a sudden, 2 of the guys, the math whizzes of the class, they got up, they were already handing in their papers. I was nowhere. I was really beginning to panic. My pencil slipped out of my sweaty hand and dropped to the floor. And when it dropped, any notion of the law of negative exponents. Now other kids were starting to turn in their papers too, but he had just finished correcting the first 2. He said, "Well, these are perfect, excellent. We have 2 law enforcement agents here." The idea gave him such joy, he arched his bushy eyebrows and he stood on his tiptoes. "Yes, we'll have our law enforcement agents right here. I wonder how many other enforcers of the law we'll have." He was grading the quizzes and he said, "Let's have all of the law-abiding citizens here and all of the offenders of the law here." Well, the law of the good citizens was longer than the other line. And the kids kept lining up. I still didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was going to do now. There was hardly anybody sitting down in their desks. I was feeling mighty lonely in the middle. I had to do something, so I just filled in some answers to save face. But he wouldn't stop there. He was so caught up in his little analogy that he said, "Wait a minute, I have another idea. Let's see, how much money should we charge for each offense of the law? How about $10? All right, all you offenders, line yourself up in order of what you have to pay me here." I hadn't even turned in my paper yet. I thought I'd better just do this. I got up and my hand was shaking. My throat was dry. My head was splitting. I gave it to him he graded it, I knew what it was. I slipped to the end of the line. Now, you would have thought that this would all be done by now, but it wasn't. He just loved this whole idea. He said, all right, I'm just going to ask each one of you how much money you owe me. Responses started to come flying across like spitballs. $10, $10, $20, $20, $30. And then he got to me. It was very quiet in the room. I felt everybody's eyes on me. I felt his hot breath on my forehead. And then a great calm overcame me because I made a great discovery. He was the problem, not me. I could do the work if he had just made a classroom atmosphere conducive for learning. I just couldn't learn this way. I looked at him, and he said, well, Barbara, so how much are you going to contribute to the Treasury? I said, Mr. Thompson, I don't owe you anything. And I walked out of the room. I walked into the hallway, which was very quiet because everybody else was still in classes. And my shoes clicked on the linoleum tiles and produced an echo with the metal lockers lining the hallway. And I walked down that hallway and I walked to the guidance counselor's office and I told her what happened. And she said, Barbara, I'm going to talk to Mr. Thompson and we will work this out. And she did. And I got through the rest of the year without any more drama. But I have to tell you, when that last day of Algebra 2 came at the end of the year, I was so happy to be finally done with required math courses in my life.